think my wife has been lying to me for months, and I don't know what's real anymore. So, yeah, I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but here we are. I'm 32M. She's 30F. We've been married for 5 years, together for almost 8. Up until recently, I would have told you we were mostly fine. Not perfect, but stable. We had our arguments like any couple, mostly about small stuff. Money, chores, her being late to literally everything, but nothing that felt catastrophic. But over the last few months, something shifted. And I can't even point to one single moment. It was more like a slow buildup of things that didn't quite add up. She started getting sharper. Like not just irritated, straight up dismissive. Snapping at me over nothing. If I asked simple questions like, "Hey, when will you be home?" she'd roll her eyes and say I was interrogating her. At first, I blamed stress. She said work was crazy. Her words, always vague. But then the late nights started. Then the phone, always face down, always locked, always with her. And yeah, I know how this sounds. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband. But the lies, they started small. At first, the lies were so minor I almost felt stupid even noticing them. Like she'd say she was working late, but then I'd see a receipt in her bag from a bar across town. When I'd casually ask about it, she wouldn't even hesitate, just shrug and say something like, "Oh, coworkers dragged me out after. I told you that." Except she didn't. And the weird part? She'd say it with so much confidence that I'd actually question my own memory. Then there were the random inconsistencies. She told me she had a team meeting on a Saturday, which already felt off. But later that night she mentioned her boss wasn't even there. When I pointed that out, she snapped at me. Said I was twisting her words and being exhausting. That was new. She used to at least try to explain things. Now it was like every question I asked turned me into the problem. And then came the first moment where my gut really dropped. One night, she said she'd be home by 9. Pretty normal. Midnight comes, nothing. No message. No call. I text her. No response. Call her. Straight to voicemail. At around 1:30 a.m., she finally walks in like it's nothing. No apology. No explanation. Just kicks off her shoes and says, "My phone died." But here's the thing, her phone didn't die. Because when she went to shower, I saw the screen light up. And that's when something in me shifted from maybe I'm overthinking to something is seriously wrong here. I didn't confront her that night. I know some people would've. But honestly, I froze. My brain was trying to catch up with what my gut was already screaming. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. Yeah, I know. Line crossed. Trust already broken at that point, I guess. But after months of feeling like I was losing my grip on reality, I needed something concrete. Her phone wasn't locked when I picked it up, which almost felt careless? Or maybe she just didn't think I'd ever actually look. First, nothing obvious. No "I love you" texts. No saved contact named Red Heart Side Dude Red Heart. Or anything that blatant. Just normal conversations, work chats, group threads. For a second, I actually felt relief. Like maybe I was just spiraling. Then I opened her messages with a contact saved as Oksana Work. And yeah, that's where everything fell apart. Because Oksana wasn't talking like a coworker. Can't stop thinking about last night. Wish you stayed longer. Next time no rushing, okay? My hands literally started shaking. I remember rereading the messages over and over. Like maybe I was misunderstanding something obvious. But there was no misunderstanding. And the timestamps? They lined up perfectly with all those late nights at work. I wish I could say I handled it calmly after that. I didn't. I just stood there in the kitchen at like 2 a.m., her phone in my hand, feeling like the floor dropped out from under me. Part of me still wanted to believe there was some explanation. Like maybe it was flirting that went too far. Maybe it hadn't actually turned physical. So I kept scrolling. Bad idea. There were photos. Nothing explicit, but enough. Selfies she never sent me. One of her in what I know is new lingerie. Another one from what looked like a hotel bathroom. And then one message that just stuck in my head. Delete our chat just in case. He's been asking questions lately. He, that's me. That's when it stopped being denial and turned into something colder. Clearer. Ugly but undeniable. I suddenly felt like every weird moment over the past few months snapped into place. Every time she made me feel crazy for asking questions. Every eye roll. Every "you're overthinking." She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she knew I was starting to notice. I heard the shower turn off, and I had maybe 10 seconds to decide what to do. And instead of putting the phone back and pretending, I just stayed there, waiting. She walked out of the bathroom like nothing was wrong. Hair wet, wrapped in a towel, scrolling through her phone. My stomach dropped when she reached for it and realized it wasn't where she left it. Then she looked up and saw me, standing there, holding it. There was this split second where everything just froze. And I swear, in that moment, her face changed. Not guilt, not panic, calculation. "What are you doing with my phone?" she said, instantly sharp, defensive, like I was the one who messed up. I didn't even answer right away. I just held it out slightly and said, "Who's Oksana?" She didn't miss a beat. "My coworker. You know that." The confidence again, like she could just overwrite reality if she said it firmly enough. So I turned the screen toward her. Open chat. No room for interpretation. She looked at it for maybe half a second, then rolled her eyes. "I can't believe you went through my phone. That's actually insane." That's when something in me snapped. Not loud, not explosive, just a quiet realization. She wasn't even going to try to deny it. She was going to turn this into my fault. I honestly hoped, that when she saw I had actual proof, she'd drop the act. Like, okay, cards on the table, we deal with it. Nope. She doubled down. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said, crossing her arms like she was the one being attacked. "You're taking things out of context." Out of context. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd I didn't know what else to do. "Can't stop thinking about last night is out of context?" I asked. She shrugged. "People joke like that. You don't understand my work environment." At this point, my head was spinning. It was like arguing with someone who just refused to exist in reality. So I pushed further. I mentioned the photos, the hotel bathroom. That's when her tone changed slightly. Not softer, just more strategic. "Okay," she said, exhaling like I was exhausting her. "I didn't tell you everything because I knew you'd react exactly like this. So now it was my fault again." According to her, it was just attention. She said she felt ignored lately, that things between us had been stale, that it didn't mean anything serious. And then she hit me with, "I didn't cheat." Not really. Not really. I remember staring at her thinking, what does that even mean? I asked her directly, "Did you sleep with them?" And yeah, I said them, not her. Because by that point, I didn't even trust the name in the contact anymore. She hesitated, just for a second, and that second told me everything. But then she shook her head. "No." Flat. Simple. Clean. A lie. I could feel it. Not because I had hard proof of that specific detail, but because everything about her tone, her body language, the way she avoided eye contact for that split second, it all screamed it. "Look at me and say that again," I told her. She rolled her eyes again, like I was being dramatic. "I just said it." That's when I realized something that honestly hit harder than the messages themselves. She wasn't scared of losing me. There was no desperation. No, "Please don't leave." No panic. Just annoyance that she got caught. I sat down because my legs actually felt weak at that point. My brain was trying to process two completely different realities, the life I thought I had, and whatever this actually was. "I know you're lying," I said quietly, and instead of denying it harder, she just sighed. That sigh, it broke something in me more than yelling ever could. Because it wasn't guilt. It wasn't regret. It was inconvenience. She sat down across from me, still wrapped in that towel, like we were about to discuss something boring, like bills or groceries. "Why are you making this such a big deal?" she said. I actually had to take a second to process that sentence. "A big deal," I repeated. "You've been lying to me for months. You're texting someone behind my back, meeting them, sending pictures. It's not like I'm in love with them. She cut in, sharp again. You're acting like I ruined everything. That's when the anger finally hit. Not explosive, but deep, heavy. You did ruin everything, I said. At least everything I thought we had. She just shook her head. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You always overreact. That word again. Overreact. I started questioning myself for a second. Like, am I actually blowing this up? But then my brain replayed the messages. The lies. The late nights. No, this wasn't me overreacting. This was her refusing to take responsibility. And then, out of nowhere, she said something that completely blindsided me. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, this wouldn't have happened. That one landed hard. That sentence just echoed in my head. Maybe if you paid more attention to me. For a split second, I actually went there. I started replaying everything. Times I worked late, nights I was too tired to talk, moments I chose my phone over a conversation. Like maybe she was right. Maybe I did mess up somewhere. But then something clicked. Even if I wasn't perfect, even if I did get comfortable, distracted, whatever, that doesn't magically justify months of lying, sneaking around, and making me feel like I was losing my mind. You could have talked to me, I said. You could have told me something was wrong. She shrugged again. I tried. You didn't listen. And I swear, that's when the guilt started mixing with the anger in the worst possible way. Because now it wasn't just her betrayal, it was this twisted version of events where somehow I was partly responsible for it. I hated that feeling. It made everything murky. I didn't deserve this, I said quietly. She didn't even respond right away. Just looked at me like she was weighing whether this conversation was worth continuing. Then she stood up, grabbed her phone out of my hand, and said, I'm going to bed. We'll talk when you calm down. Calm down. Like I was the unstable one here. I didn't sleep that night. She did. That might have been one of the hardest parts. Hearing her just fall asleep like nothing happened. Like we didn't just tear open something that should have mattered. I stayed in the living room, lights off, just sitting there replaying everything. Every, I love you. Every late night at work. Every time she told me I was overthinking. It all felt fake now. Or at least, contaminated. Around 4 a.m., I picked up my phone and almost texted a friend. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. That this wasn't normal. That I wasn't overreacting. But I didn't. Because saying it out loud would make it real. And I think part of me still wasn't ready for that. By morning, I felt completely drained. Not even angry anymore, just empty. She came into the kitchen like it was any other day. Made coffee. Scrolled through her phone. Are you still upset? She asked casually. That word, upset, felt so small compared to what I was actually feeling. You cheated on me, I said. She sighed again, like we were back to square one. I told you it wasn't like that. And that's when I realized something important, even in that fog. She was never going to call it what it was. Which meant, if I stayed, I'd always be the one questioning reality. Over the next few days, I barely spoke to her. I stayed in my head, running every scenario, every conversation, every lie. Every time I caught a glimpse of her, my chest tightened like I was suffocating. She tried. Oh, she tried. Little normal gestures. Coffee in the morning, small smiles. I love you, tossed casually. But each one felt like salt in a wound. And the worst part? She kept lying. Not always about cheating stuff, but little things. I called my mom. She didn't. I was at the store. She wasn't. I could feel the shift in me. The trust one had evaporating piece by piece, replaced with constant doubt. I caught myself checking her phone again. I hated that I did it, but I had to know what she was doing. Every time she left the room, I felt this anxious pull. Then came a completely unexpected twist. One evening, she accidentally left her email open on the laptop. I didn't even have to dig. Her messages to him were right there. And this time, there was no excuse. No, it's just attention. No half-hearted denial. It was all laid bare. Meeting times, plans, flirtatious messages. She'd even made jokes about me without my knowing. I stared at the screen, numb. Not even sad yet, just hollow, like my life had been quietly rewritten without my consent. That's when I realized I couldn't pretend anymore. Not to myself, not to her. Something had to give. I just didn't know what yet. Finally, I confronted her again that night. This time, I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't looking for excuses. I just laid it all out. I know everything, I said. The texts, the meetings, the lies. I can't do this anymore if you're gonna keep pretending it's nothing. She froze. I honestly thought maybe, just maybe, she'd break. But no. Instead, she laughed. Not a little laugh. A sharp, bitter laugh. You think I care what you know? She said. You're acting like some victim here. This isn't a big deal. That cut deeper than anything. It wasn't the cheating, it was the complete lack of remorse. I tried to reason with her. Tried to explain how betrayed I felt. How disrespected. How my trust had been completely destroyed. She shrugged. You always take things too seriously. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't have needed attention elsewhere. And in that moment, everything clicked. The lies, the manipulation, the excuses, the fake apologies. All of it. She wasn't going to change. She wasn't going to care. I felt rage, sorrow, disbelief, and exhaustion all at once. I finally realized I had to make a choice. Keep getting hurt or walk away. And for the first time in months, I felt clarity. I would leave. Not because I wanted to punish her. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I needed myself back. Because staying would mean losing me completely. Telling her wasn't easy. I packed a bag, trying to keep it quiet, trying not to make it a scene. When she saw me with my suitcase, she blinked like I'd grown a second head. Where are you going? She asked. Sharp, defensive, like she thought she could intimidate me into staying. I'm leaving, I said. Simple, flat, calm. She laughed. You can't just leave. We'll talk, figure this out. You're overreacting again. I shook my head. No, I've spent months overthinking, questioning myself, hoping you'd change. You didn't. You won't. I can't do this anymore. Her face twisted, not in remorse, but anger. Fine. Go. See if anyone else will put up with you. Good luck finding someone better. And I realized I didn't care about her words. Not really. I cared about my freedom, my sanity, and the chance to rebuild my life without someone lying to me every single day. Walking out the door, I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief that I wasn't trapped anymore. Heartbreak for everything I lost. And for the person I thought I knew but didn't. It was messy, ugly, painful, and necessary. I didn't look back, because I had to move forward. The first step in reclaiming my life. And honestly, that step felt like both an ending and a beginning. It's been a few weeks since I left. Some days are easier than others. Some mornings I wake up and the absence of her feels like freedom, light, clarity. Other nights, I catch myself thinking about what we had, and my chest tightens like it's trying to remind me of the pain. But I've learned a lot. I've learned that trust is everything. And once it's gone, no amount of apologies or excuses can bring it back. I've learned that someone who lies consistently, manipulates, and refuses to take responsibility isn't going to suddenly get better just because you love them. I've learned to stop blaming myself for someone else's choices. For so long, I carried guilt because she made me feel like I wasn't enough. Now I see it for what it was, a tactic to control me. Most importantly, I've learned that leaving isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. Choosing your peace, your mental health, your future. To anyone going through something similar, trust your gut. Don't let someone convince you that their lies are your fault. Protect yourself. And remember that it's okay to walk away from someone who can't meet you halfway. It hurts like hell, but eventually you'll breathe easier. And eventually you'll feel like you again. Because that's what matters most.